these skirts should have pockets.
Or maybe she lost it at Pilates.
3 and 2 and...
But she's not worried. With the Chase mobile app, she can lock her card till it turns up. Tools that help protect. One bank that puts you in control. Visit chase.com/checking. Chase, make more of what's yours.
Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. JP Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
The Good Neighbor Network, FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and online at WGNSradio.com. This is the Roundtable. A look at the news, views, politics, and people that are shaping Rutherford County.
And good morning and welcome everybody to your Tuesday morning edition of the Roundtable Show with your hosts, Rick and Wayne. We come to you every Tuesday morning here from WGNS in Murfreesboro, and we try to promote the good comings of going around in Rutherford County, in the north end of Rutherford, Smyrna, Laverne, and things going on. And we got a great show for you today, and I hope you enjoy it. But Wayne, how are you, buddy?
I'm good. I was looking out the window at the rain come down. Are we still in drought?
We can't be after all this.
I wouldn't think so, but still pining over the lack of football. So, but listen to all the sports show and at least get a little something with the combines for the NFL having just occurred, and getting ready for the draft.
That's right. Well, March Madness, man, you got to get your basketball on.
I try to put my basketball hat on, but football first, then baseball, and basketball's there. But I'm just not the basketball guy that I am with football and baseball.
Well, I think the Lady Raiders will win the last two, so hopefully they're priming to do well. The boys are kind of struggling a little bit, but my UT men are killing it, so that's a good thing.
I'd like to think the Lady Raiders can, march into March Madness and have some success with those two tall post players. They're both very talented, and they have so many ladies that can knock the eye out of it from 3 points. So I think Coach Insell, if this is not his best team, it
ranks
may
right
be
up there, doesn't it? The Shelbyville days is what I grew up remembering. Good Lord.
Yeah. That's a sore subject to a lot of people in this county.
It sure is.
But he's a great coach. He's had just great success here. So, Brother Rick, this morning, we have some exceptional programs and have had some exceptional programs, but I've been looking forward to this one as much as anyone we've had, and I have such respect and admiration for our guest, and to get for him to take time out of his extremely busy schedule to be with us. I'm just so very pleased, and his honor, Judge Terry Fann, is with us this morning, and we know a lot of the same people, you and Rick and I, and again, Your Honor, thank you for being with us this morning.
I'm excited to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you guys this morning and your audience, and it's a real honor for me to be here, so thanks for having me.
Thank you. Of course, we were having, prior to the, we don't have a green room, but we got a blue room. But prior to the show, we were talking about some of your early life, and with Smyrna, and having gone to Smyrna High School. I'm looking forward to you talking a little bit about your engagement at some point in time. So Rick and I found that extremely fascinating.
Well, I have been, I've been blessed. I'm blessed as I sit here now, and moving to Smyrna when I was a freshman in high school turned out to be one of the points, as I look back now, that changed the direction of my life and led me really to where I am now. I grew up in Franklin. As I like to say, my mama's people. My mama was a Smithson, and there's a place in Bethesda over in Williamson County called Smithson Holler. And so my mom was from Bethesda in Williamson County, and my dad lived in Smyrna, and she went with some girlfriends when she was in high school to the old Smyrna Raceway, which is now Nissan. And there she met my dad, who was with a bunch of guys that he knew. He moved to Smyrna because his father, his name was A.B. Andrew Bruce. They were from West Tennessee, but they moved to Smyrna because my grandfather got a job at Seward Air Force Base. He was in civil service there at the Seward Air Force Base. So that's what brought the Fann side to Smyrna. And while he was working at Seward Air Force Base, my grandfather was killed in a tragic fire when my dad was a teenager. But in any event, he was at the Smyrna racetrack, and my mom happened to be there, and they met, and then the rest was history. They started dating, and soon after got married. My dad went into the Air Force for a while, and then when he came back, we lived in Franklin until we moved to Smyrna in 1975. And what prompted that move was the construction of what's now known as the Bridgestone tire plant in Laverne. It was originally a Firestone plant. And so my dad, a blue-collar worker, he went to work there in 72 or 73, right around the time it opened. His clock number was 33, which meant he was the 33rd person hired down there, and he worked in that plant until he retired after 2 heart attacks. He decided it was time to retire. But in any event, he took that job at Firestone and decided that we should move to Smyrna. His brother and sisters lived in Laverne, and so he bought 3 acres out off of Amelville Road, and we moved there in the late summer of 1975. I started school at Thurman Francis. My sister was a senior at Smyrna High School, and so that got us to Smyrna.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
So you at Thurman Francis, and then you went over to Smyrna High, and that's when I guess you first met Mr. Rakes, right?
Well, I actually, this is, I don't know, maybe it's
I want
cliche,
to lead up
but
to this story a little bit here. The lead
So,
into
A little bit.
So my mother was, I'll tell everybody that I know that knew her also, was a saint, and she brought us up in the church. And so even though we moved Labor Day weekend, we went to church Sunday morning. We went to First Baptist Church in Smyrna, and I was the new kid in town, and so we were just right after church. A gentleman who was sitting in front of us turned around and shook my dad's hand, and remembered my dad and said, "Hey, Fann, I'm Bud Rakes." And I thought, okay, he's the principal over the high school. I wasn't quite there yet, but his legend had creeped over to Thurman Francis, even though I'd only been there a couple of weeks. And so introduced himself to me. I told him I was a freshman at Thurman Francis, and he said, "Well, you need to meet my daughter." And he pointed to her standing up with all the other young people in the balcony of the old Smyrna First Baptist Church, and it was Vicky. And she and I were the same grade, and we were freshmen at Thurman Francis. And it may seem silly, but literally I thought that is the girl for me.
Wow.
And now we were freshmen. It took me a while to convince her of that, but we became friends, and really through church, I made a lot of friends immediately in Smyrna through First Baptist Church. Again, that was. I give my mom credit for getting us up and getting us in church and making us go, but in any event, we became good friends. And when we were juniors in high school, I had another good friend of mine who, it was time for junior prom. And I really wanted to ask her to go to prom, but I thought she'll never go with me. And so I was riding back out to Amelville with a friend of mine after school, and he stopped in the parking lot at Smyrna High School and said, "Vicky is in the principal's office with Miss Rakes," because she was the secretary. "Go in there and ask her to go to prom." And I said, "I'm not going. I'm afraid. I don't want to be turned down." And he said, "We're not leaving the parking lot till you go."
Oh wow!
So I got out.
Friend.
Well, what a good friend. That's right. So I did. I took the challenge, went in, and she said, "Sure, I'll go to prom with you." And we had our first date. We had a pre-prom date just to make sure that I guess her dad was going to make sure I knew how to get her home on time. And that was April 15, 1978. And we just last summer celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary.
Wow. Gotta ask, when you asked her to the prom, was Mrs. Rakes nearby, or were y'all able to be have a little bit of privacy?
She was nearby.
Okay.
I wasn't afraid of her.
Okay.
She was another saint
Yes,
in my
I
life.
agree. I agree.
But I did scope out as I went back into school, because it was 3:15, 3:30 when I scoped to find where her dad was.
Sure.
Before I went in there, and he wasn't around, so I felt a lot more confident walking in and asking her to the prom with Miss Rakes there, because she was always a tremendous supporter and loved me, and I adored her.
You know, I just cannot tell you how much I admire you for that act, because not in any life could I ever imagine asking Mr. Rakes. I mean, I love the man, I respect, admire the man, but asking one of his daughters out for a date, I just can't imagine doing that. That's beyond my perception.
Well, it was as I said to you guys earlier, there have been a lot of doors open to me, a lot of paths made available to me, and if I would get out of my own way, sometimes I would find out that that's really where I'm supposed to be. And there's no doubt that my friend who said, get back in there and ask her right now, he knew better than me. Wow. And so we started dating there in April of '78 and went to prom in, I guess, probably May. And my plan, my dad was a blue-collar worker. My mom didn't complete high school. She apparently felt about my dad the way I felt about Vicky and didn't want to let him go. So she quit high school at age of 17 and married my dad before he went off to, he had to go to Spain in the Air Force. And so I was blue collar. I was just going to say I came from a blue collar background, and I worked through high school, and I was very excited that Vicky would go out with me, and that it would come with the blessing of her mom and dad. My plan was to go to MTSU. I knew I'd have to work my way through school and pay my way through school, so I was going to MTSU. Then I found out she was going to UT Knoxville. All of a sudden, I decided that's really where I really wanted to go. And so when I had never been to UT, I'd never been to Knoxville, never been to a football game. And so we had a college day that you got as a senior to take a day off and go to her college. So her dad, Mr. Rakes, and her uncle, Steve Waldron, took Vicki and I to Knoxville on our college day. And I was overwhelmed. Loved it. She loved it. I loved her. She was going there. So whatever it took, I was going to go to UT Knoxville. Yes. So after we graduated in the May of 1979, I followed her to Knoxville, where we both finished our undergraduate degrees.
Brothers and or sisters?
I have a sister. My sister Tammy is 3 years older than me. After she graduated from high school, she went to Belmont and finished her degree there. And I'll have to give a nod to Mayor Sam Ridley. Mayor Ridley went to Smyrna First Baptist, and he really was a great friend to our family. I'm not sure why. He just kind of took us in. And Mayor Ridley was very heavily involved in Belmont University back then. And he assisted my sister in getting scholarships and making sure that she was able to have enough financial aid or whatever it was then to be able to graduate there. When I went to UT as a freshman in fall of 1979, it was my sister's senior year, and Firestone went on strike. They had gotten the United Rubber Workers had come in, and it was in the 70s things were a lot different than they are now, but it was they voted them in and they went on strike, and so my dad was out of work, and I was trying to go off to college to UT. My sister was needing to finish up her degree, and things worked out. Again, we were blessed. Things worked out. Then she went to Southern Seminary in Louisville, Kentucky. And again, I give my mom credit for raising us the way she did. She took a job she was the first female leader hired by the Florida Baptist Convention. And so she enjoyed living in Florida. She still lives there in Ponte Vedra Beach with her husband, and they have 2 children that are grown and adults. And like a lot of 30-something-year-olds, they live in Nashville. So
That's the truth.
That's pretty cool.
So what made you turn towards law when you were at UT? Was it
Well,
Steve Waldron having an influence in that, or how did that work?
he had a huge influence, but it was as my life story goes, it is a little more complicated than that. So my undergraduate degree was in agriculture. Frank Nix, I don't know if you remember Mr. Nix.
Yeah.
Mr. Nix owned a farm right off of Amelville Road where there are huge warehouses now. And Mr. Nix was a contact I made at First Baptist Church.
Co-op.
And he was the chief executive officer of Tennessee Farmers Co-op in Laverne. So he was over all the farmers co-ops across the state. And he came up to me at church one Sunday night, and I was 14, 15 years old, and he said, "You need a job?" And I said, "I do." And so I started working on his farm when I was 15 years old. And I worked my way on his farm. I did whatever he needed, whether it was bush hogging, getting up cattle, whatever, hauling hay. I loved that farm work. My mother's brother had a dairy farm in Franklin. In the summers, I would go spend time on his farm. And thinking back about it, it was as a parent now, I see my parents sacrificed really because they knew I loved being on the farm with my cousins, and we would hunt and fish and work. And with the dairy farm, you're up early. But it taught me so much. It taught me the importance of being dependable, responsible. The cows don't milk themselves, and they don't clean up after themselves.
No, they don't.
And as the youngest one of the crew, I had that cleanup duty. So I loved being outside, and I worked with Mr. Nix, and he was a great mentor and inspiration for me. So when I went to UT, I majored in agriculture. They have a fantastic college of agriculture there. As I worked my way through, again, I was blessed to have Mr. Nix in my life. I received the Tennessee Farmers Co-op Scholarship. I received the Agricultural Alumni Scholarship. He never took credit for anything, but I would not have been able to go to school without the help of him. When I turned, my birthday's in the middle of summer. The day I turned 18, I got a job at the Tennessee Farmers Co-op in Laverne. You had to be 18 to work there. Right. I worked there, Rick, and we were on quarters at UT back then, so we had a long break in the winter. Every summer break and every winter break, I worked at the co-op in Laverne. I worked at the feed mill and unloaded boxcars, 100-pound bags of feed in the feed mill. They called me College Boy, and when I walked in the door and they said, "Hey, College Boy," I knew there was a boxcar back there I was going to be friends with the rest of the day.
Yes.
But I worked at the fertilizer plant, I worked in the warehouse, or I built gates in the gate plant. Wherever they needed somebody, I would work. I would work overtime, and every person there influenced me because they all privately, of course, they picked on me in the break room,
Certainly.
but privately they would say, "Go back to school. You got it. You don't want to do this the rest of your life. You've got an opportunity that we didn't have. Go to school, get your education," and I did, and I actually graduated a quarter early. I needed to get out. I took some MTSU classes in the summer, and I graduated in March of 1983, and went to work for Farm Credit, Dwight Hancock.
Sure.
Dwight Hancock was the president of Middle Tennessee. Then it was called Production Credit Association. So Dwight hired me before I graduated, and I became a loan officer for Production Credit Association. I graduated in March of 1983. Vicki was a teacher, of course. She came home in March after that winter quarter and did her student teaching at Smyrna Primary. Well, she also did it in Nashville, so she did some student teaching in Nashville. Sure. She graduated on June the 11th, 1983. We got married on June 25th. So we had a busy 1983. I went to work for Farm Credit, and we moved to Fayetteville down in Lincoln County. And Vicki started teaching at Flintville Elementary School in Lincoln County. So she taught there. I worked for PCA. And for the next couple of years, we lived in Lincoln County, and I covered territory down there. But it was a hard financial time. Interest rates were really high.
80s,
Yeah. Interest rates were in the high teens. Farmers were really struggling. I ended up being in bankruptcy court quite a bit, sadly to say. And I was watching what our bankruptcy lawyer was doing, and I thought, I think I can do that. Well, all the while, Steve was encouraging me to go to law school. And we eventually moved back to Murfreesboro. I got a promotion to assistant treasurer, and we came to Murfreesboro, and I worked in the office that's still on South Church Street. And I would talk to Steve, because he's my wife's uncle, and he would tell me when he had an interesting case, and so I would slip up to the courthouse and watch him try a case, and then I'd go over to his office, and we would talk about it. And he encouraged me, and said, if you go to law school and pass the bar exam, you'll always have somewhere to practice. And again, another door opened for me, and he was everything I needed. And so we decided in 1985, Vicki and I decided, she was teaching at Smyrna Primary for Mr. Davenport at that time, and I was working for Farm Credit, and we decided to both quit our jobs, and we moved to Memphis, and I went to law school starting in the fall of 1985.
Wow. What a great story.
Yep. You're listening to the Honorable Judge Terry Fann. He's circuit court judge. He was appointed I guess you were appointed, last year? 2023,
I started
right?
December 1.
Yeah,
yes.
And I think you're coming up for election this year. But
that's right.
We're going to take our first break. We'll be right back with you in just a minute, and hope you join the show.
Finding that missing shin guard, remembering whether it's a home or away game, getting the right kid to the right playing field on the right day. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with auto owners, insurance doesn't have to be one of them. We work with independent agents who keep insurance simple so you can worry about more important things, like not being that fan. Oh, come on, ref! That's simple human sense.
Rayburn Insurance in Smyrna.
Come see me, Rick Hall, at Rayburn Insurance in downtown Smyrna today.
Hey fellas, if you've been feeling tired and grumpy and have noticed a lack of motivation and drive, you may have low T. Low testosterone levels can cause weight gain, loss of muscle mass, and so much more. I recommend Low T Center, which is where I get my levels tested. They make it quick and easy to get your levels checked, and it's only $25. And with their on-site lab, you'll get your results back in about 25 minutes. Most insurance is accepted for treatment. Go to lowtcenter.com now to book your appointment online. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
Where is the best barbecue in town? In 1920, East Main. The best barbecue for miles around is in 1920, East Main. You can buy it by the pound, sandwich, platter, or plate. No matter what you choose, it will taste great. You can come with a friend, by yourself, or with a date. Just Lick Pig Barbecue. Barbecue pork, beef, or chicken, Brunswick stew, great sides, lunch specials, down-home atmosphere, and they cater. Slick Pig Barbecue, it's the best.
The role of property assessor is an important one. Virgil Gammon stands ready to take over the reins of property assessor of Rutherford County. By electing Virgil Gammon, a U.S. Army veteran, voters can trust that their interests will be safeguarded, ensuring a fair and just system of property assessment.
Hi, I'm Virgil Gammon. I'd appreciate your vote.
Virgil Gammon is a former county commissioner and a longtime citizen of Rutherford County.
Paid for by Gammon for property assessor. Al Miller, treasurer.
Virgil Gammon for property assessor of Rutherford County.
Del Walmsley and the Wealth Cycle.
This is the wealth cycle that I've taught for 30 years. Buy one house, 10 houses, an apartment, 2 apartments, 8, 20, 500 units, 1,000 units, 2,000, 5,000 units. And as you keep putting the money and the profits back in, you become one of those rich people. And much quicker than you'd even believe.
Learn Del's Wealth Cycle at GiveMeTotalFreedom.com. Use promo code 2023. Save 60%. Code 2023. GiveMeTotalFreedom.com. GiveMeTotalFreedom.com.
This is Good Neighbor Events with Bart Walker. Brought to you by AmeriCare Pest Control and the law offices of John Day.
This is a paid legal ad.
Hi, this is John Day of the law offices of John Day. I've lived and worked as a lawyer in Middle Tennessee for over 30 years, and to me, every single day has been an honor. That's why our firm is so involved with community programs like bicycle helmet giveaways and our Safe Ride Home program. At the law offices of John Day, we're not just looking to make donations. We want to make a difference in the community we hold so dear. And if you're ever injured, know that we are here for you too.
WGNS encourages you to shop local. That really helps our economy. Local author Jim Sandman is going to be at the Linebaugh Public Library on Saturday morning, March the 16th, 10 o'clock in the morning. And he'll be there until 2 in the afternoon, telling about his book, Heaven is Like Eternal Sex, and Other Things You Really Desire. Copies will be available, and he'll be happy to sign them for you. That's Saturday, March the 16th, at the Linebaugh Public Library, 10 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. And on that same date, at about the same time, 10 until 1 on Saturday, March the 16th, you're encouraged to drop off arts and crafts supplies to the Lane Agri Park. It'll be used by adults with intellectual disabilities. They need fabric, yarn, paint, scrapbooking materials, sewing notions, paper, jewelry-making items, stained glass, any of the traditional art and crafts supplies. Drop it off at the Lane Agri Park Saturday, March the 16th from 10 in the morning until 1 in the afternoon. Those are WGNS Good Neighbor events.
Rutherford weather.
We'll see periods of showers and storms here this afternoon with cloudy skies, a high in the upper 60s. Winds out of the south at 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 20. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on News Radio WGNS.
Currently, it's 60.
Broadcasting from the Middle Tennessee Electric Studios. Take control of your account management and energy consumption with the MyMTE app. Download from the App Store and manage your account, improve your energy habits, and more. MTE, serving to make life better since 1936.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and worldwide at WGNSradio.com.
And good morning and welcome back to the second segment of Tuesday Mornings with Rick and Wayne. And it's been our honor and our privilege to have his honor, Judge Terry Fann, with us this morning. And we've thoroughly enjoyed the first segment and going to put you on the spot.
All right.
And go ahead and ask you about asking Mr. Rakes for his daughter's hand. I'd love to have been a fly on the wall for that one.
Well, by the summer of 1982, we had dated, Vic and I dated 4 years, and it became, I guess the handwriting was on the wall, and so we were home for the summer. It was June of 1982, and I was working at the co-op. I also umpired to try to make extra money, and I had actually, a year earlier, put Vicky's ring on layaway. Now, some people don't remember what layaway was, but there was a little jewelry store in Markman's in West Knoxville, and I would go out every week and give them a little bit of my umpire money, and finally got it paid off in June of 1982. And so we'd made a dinner reservation downtown Nashville. We didn't get to go there much, but and one of the things I always worried about was getting Mr. Rake's approval. And even though he was really, really good to me as a senior dating his daughter in high school, and then after we went off to Knoxville, Vicky's mom always made it a soft landing for me, and she was always so very good to me. So in June of 1982, we were going to go out on this date, and I had the ring. So I called the house, and I knew Vicky wasn't there. I think she and Kimber were out somewhere. I knew she wasn't there, so I asked Mr. Rakes, I said, can I come over a little early this afternoon before we go out tonight and meet with you and Ms. Rakes for a few minutes? And I want to talk to you about something. And in his best principal's voice that I hadn't heard from at the house very often, he said, I tell you what, I'll meet you at my office at the school. And
wow.
So a lump kind of came up in my stomach, but I'd gone that far. So I drove over on a hot June Saturday afternoon, pulled up at the school, and of course I assumed he had been there 30 minutes before me, and the door was unlocked. So I went back in his office, and it was, being called to the principal's office one last time, and I'm sure I was sweating profusely as I walked in. And I told him, of course, that I loved his daughter, and I wanted to ask her that night to be my wife, and didn't know. He just gave me that stern look like a loving father really should do. But coming from your high school principal, it meant a lot more, I guess. But he was very, very gracious and gave me some words of advice and said that he believed that Vicki and I made a good couple, and it was obvious to him that I loved her, and he knew that she loved me. And he said, and it was I anticipated it being different than it was, but he was really, really good and gracious and accepted me into their family. And as I walked out the door, I think I was still shaking as I walked to my car, but I was excited and relieved and knew that I had his blessing and that of Miss Rakes. And by the time I got over to their house on Sam Davis Road, obviously he had called her because Miss Rakes met me in the garage and gave me a big hug as I walked in the house to get Vicki. So that was it was an interesting time, but I appreciated his graciousness and his acceptance of me. But when he said, "I'll meet you in my office at the school," I knew I was going on his turf, and he was taking me to his home. He had home field advantage in the school.
I would have quaked. My knees would have knocked.
So you ended up going to law school. I guess we can fast forward a little bit.
Yeah.
I think you said somewhere around 1988 is when you started law.
Graduated
the bar and started.
Yes, I graduated from. We went to Memphis. Vicki was able to. We thought about going back to Knoxville, but Knoxville College of Education were turning out so many teachers, there were no jobs. So we looked at Memphis. I got into Memphis Law School. Shelby County was the highest paying teacher salary then.
Oh, wow.
And so she got a job in North Shelby County in Millington. And there's a naval air station there. So she had military kids in her school, had a fantastic principal. In the morning, she would be driving out of town, I'd be driving into town. So we lived there. I graduated in December of 1987, and we moved back to Murfreesboro the very next week. And I started with Steve in January of 1988. I took the bar in February of 1988, and
passed it the first time.
Passed it the first time.
Wow.
And then we had then Drew was born. Our first son was born in December of 1988. We always, Vicki and I knew we wanted to come back here. My mom and dad were here. Her family was here. So we wanted to come back to Murfreesboro. There was never any doubt that if I could just get through law school and pass the bar, this is where we wanted to live. We wanted to raise our kids. And so we kind of had that plan, and it has worked out beautifully for us.
So you got to go to work with Turtle.
That's right. That's right.
Brother Steve, his nickname in high school was Turtle.
That's right.
And I forget the entire story, but
I don't think he was very fast.
Apparently not. But that's pretty cool that you were able to hang your shingle out with someone who had been around for a while.
Oh, and I admired him so much. I spoke of Mr. Nix as a mentor in my life. Dwight Hancock was a mentor, and Steve has been a mentor for me. And I followed him. I was a shadow. I know I got on his nerves, but I would follow him everywhere he went. I soaked up everything I could from him. He was a great trial lawyer, a great person, related so well to people. And I remember in one instance, we started out with a hearing in the basement of the courthouse in Cannon County that morning, and by that afternoon, and I just hung out. I just jumped in that car with him and went wherever he went. That afternoon, he argued before the Tennessee Supreme Court. So I got a full menu, a smorgasbord of law, being able just to be present and be there and learn everything I could from Steve.
But you both, in my time in law enforcement, and unfortunately I had to go against you guys some, and I don't know how our record was on that, but y'all could tell a story. And early on when I started in law enforcement in '93, you learned pretty quick going to court. I arrested a lot of people, and so you would spend a lot of time in court, and you learn pretty quick about those attorneys. You better have your A game when you were up against certain attorneys, and other ones you might have gotten by with stuff. So it taught me really quick that between yourself and Mr. Waldron and the Mitchells and people like that, it made me get on my A game pretty quick to put some good cases together, because I sure wanted to not get beat because I did some. But I just remember you could tell a story, and just like today, you're just great at telling a story, and Mr. Waldron was the same way. And I never could tell a story, but I guess that's why I wasn't an attorney and I stayed in law enforcement. But
well, we had the opportunity to represent a lot of folks. A lot of our clients came from Smyrna, Laverne. Represented, kind of had an inroad with school teachers. Right. So we represented a lot of school teachers, a lot of coaches. I represented a lot of folks from Bridgestone and Firestone, Bridgestone, and Nissan. It really helped me as a young lawyer to be able to practice because of my roots here and my family here, and the fact that once we got somebody in, we tried to treat them with respect. That was one of the things during COVID that I missed the most, was being able to sit down and talk to my clients. And Steve was a master, and I learned from him. But when I first sat down with Steve with the new client, we would know by the time they left where their great-grandfather was from, how they got to Las Casas, and everything else from that. And so I learned from that and enjoy meeting with people. And during COVID, we didn't have that. And today we still, do a lot of Zoom, a lot of video conferencing, a lot of telephone conferences. And I think the generation that we have now misses a great opportunity to meet people, to learn how to tell stories, to learn about them, by not having those opportunities just to sit down and talk. I always enjoyed that. Probably my clients had to stay longer than they really wanted to when they planned to come in, because I just enjoyed talking to them and finding out about them.
Yeah. You have a very varied experience in the law.
Yes, yes. I think that gives me a great opportunity now to give back to the community and serve as a judge.
Right.
36 years I practiced. I handled everything. When I first started, we didn't have a public defender, and so I got appointed to a lot of cases. Gerald Melton was our first public defender, and still our public defender, and he started out with just him and one other lawyer, Rusty Perkins, I think.
It was.
And so there were still a lot of us young lawyers. I graduated from law school with Guy Dobson Jr., and we started practicing back here. He was coming back here. I was coming back here. We were good friends. So there were a group of us that started practicing about the same time. We got appointed to a lot of cases. So I never thought I'd handle a criminal case when I was in law school, but that turned out to be a big part of my practice. I ended up trying a case on court TV. Here is the only case I think has ever been tried on court TV that involved a sheriff's department individual who's involved in a fatal accident. But I also tried everything from divorce cases, custody cases. I got interested in employment law along the way. Interesting story. Before I even passed the bar exam, Steve and I had a client who had been involved in a car wreck. So I went to a local lot where they had towed the car, and there was a gentleman there working at the lot, and I had my camera with me, my little 35 millimeter camera, if anybody knows what that is anymore. But I said, sir, I need to get in the lot, take a picture of this car. He said, sure, young man. Came in. He said, you a lawyer? And I said, well, I hope to be. I'll get my bar results back in about 2 weeks, but I just need to take a picture of this car. We had a client who was involved in this accident. He said, well, let me ask you something since you're about to be a lawyer. He said, can you get fired just because you're 65 years old? And I thought, that doesn't sound right. I'm not an employment lawyer, but I told him, I said, I don't believe so. So he told me, he said, I work for this local company, and on my 65th birthday, I was out in the field, and they called and said, come in, we got a birthday cake for you. So came in, celebrated my 65th birthday. Everybody started going back out to the field, and they said, you don't need to go. This is your last day. We can't keep you here when you're 65. And I said, sir, I don't believe that's right, and I want you to come see me tomorrow. So that got me into employment law, and it was age discrimination. Obviously, we know more about that now. So that got me interested in employment law. In the last several years that I practiced, I had a heavy concentration in employment law. So I have business. I've tried business cases. My the real emphasis of my practice was trial work. I enjoyed going to court. I enjoyed the strategy. I enjoyed it. I coached youth baseball. I coached both my boys in youth baseball.
Bless your heart.
And it was, well, it was a release for me. It was my hobby.
So it's a trial with the umpires.
That's right. Well, I could try a tough case in court all day and then go to the ball field, and those 9 and 10-year-old boys could care less. They just wanted me to hit them ground balls and throw batting practice. Yeah. So
this morning on the sports show, I'm not sure if it was offensive or defensive, but I think it was a lineman. Jacksonville Jaguars wished him happy birthday in the morning, and they released him.
Oh, gosh.
And you telling that story about that gentleman reminded me of that. Poor guy.
Yes. What a way to celebrate your birthday.
Yeah.
Good gracious.
I apologize. I hope I didn't throw you off
your
stream. But, we just, just talking to Steve is just, he can just charm you, I guess
Absolutely.
you could say.
Absolutely.
With his conversation.
Yeah, and so much wisdom and such a knowledge of the law. He loves the law, still does, still researches, still knows it, knows more than I'll ever. As the saying goes, he's forgotten more than I'll ever know, even though I've been doing it a long time. But yes, absolutely.
Wow.
That's awesome. You're listening to the Honorable Judge Terry Fann, he's Circuit Court Judge for Rutherford County, and we're going to take our second break and be right back with you in just a minute.
It's a critical time in education, and we need experience on the Rutherford County School Board. That's why we need to elect Butch Vaughn to the school board in Zone 6. He brings experience as a public educator from his years in the classroom and as a coach to being principal at Central and Blackman Middle and Oakland High Schools. Butch Vaughn has also been in private education as the former headmaster at PCA. Experience counts, especially now. That's why we need Butch Vaughn on the Rutherford County School Board. Paid for by Butch Vaughn for School Board. Pryor Manning, Treasurer.
Hi, this is Chip Walters with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates. You might know me as the voice of the Blue Raiders, but I want to be your trusted advisor in real estate. Whether you're buying or selling, it's time to choose Chip. Do you have a growing family and need to upsize? Are you an empty nester now and need to downsize? Are you thinking of selling your current home but just worried you can't find something else? Well, it's time to choose Chip. I'm looking to be your trusted advisor in real estate. I'm Chip Walters with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates.
This is Kim Dunaway from Sunshine Nutrition Center. You hear me on Monday mornings at 7:20 talking about how to lead a healthier lifestyle. We carry supplements, personal care, and grocery items at both our Murfreesboro and Smyrna locations, family owned and operated since 1989.
Here at Bud's Tire, we make buying Michelin tires simpler. I'm Allison Mitchell with Bud's Tire Pros. We offer a straightforward approach to service, including nationwide warranties with every purchase. Stop in today to see our full lineup of Michelin and BF Goodrich tires. For whatever you drive, Michelin and BF Goodrich have a tire to fit any need. Bud's Tire Pros, hassle-free, guaranteed. We're located on East Main Street, exactly 3 miles from the town square, 1 mile past Rutherford Boulevard. Visit us online at budstirepros.tn.com.
Looking for something to take your mind off this traffic? How about a true story of instant success? Did you hear about the two friends who went grocery shopping in Ashland City and picked up everything on their list plus $75,000? Or the one where a truck driver made a last-minute stop off Interstate 40 and drove off with a cool $1 million? All their lives changed in an instant, and yours could too. So stop by your local retailer for your chance with instant games from the Tennessee Lottery. Game-changing, life-changing fun. Please play responsibly.
Hi, this is Bob Cornell, pastor of Covenant Church right here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. The answer that you've been looking for is found in Jesus and what he accomplished at the cross. You see, Jesus changes lives from the inside out. We would love for you to join us at Covenant Church, located at 1124 Brinkley Ave right here in Murfreesboro. We have services Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. and Tuesdays at 7 p.m. You can learn more about us at our Cornell Ministries YouTube channel. We want you to grow in Christ at Covenant Church.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and worldwide at WGNSradio.com.
And welcome back to the third and final segment of Tuesday Mornings with Rick and Wayne. And it's been our honor to have his honor, Judge Terry Fann, Circuit Court Judge here in Rutherford County. And, you are running for election or campaigning here in the near
Yes,
future.
last summer, Judge Mark Rogers retired, and his term would have concluded in 2030. Judicial terms are 8 years. I was fortunate enough and honored that Governor Lee appointed me to fill his position. The appointment by the governor is until the next general election. And so the next general election is this year. So August 1st is the general election. So I will be asking the voters to keep me in office and return me to circuit court judge where I'm serving now. And then I will finish out Judge Rogers' term, which will be into 2030.
Your qualifications, Your Honor, are just amazing. I know you as you ooze with integrity, and I'm just so honored to be your friend.
Thank you. Thank you.
Same here. And I know you represented, like, I'm a member of FOP, and
yes,
you were one of our attorneys for the FOP Stones River Lodge here for many years.
Yes.
And that was the thing I learned about police work, that I always thought it was like, you know, you had Darth Vader and Star Wars, you know, and Luke. But when you got in the room, as you learned, with it was that power of negotiation that happened a lot of time in the jury room. That those are where the negotiations are, and then you would run to lunch or something with one of the DAs, and next thing you know, Terry Fann comes and sits down with you, and we all have lunch together. So it was friendship, and you learn that pretty quick. You know, you do a service for people, make sure their rights aren't violated in any way on both sides, and they get something fair. And you've just always been a fair man.
One of the highlights of my career has been the opportunity to represent police officers. I spoke about school teachers and workers, but police officers made up a big part of my practice. My uncle my great uncle was chief of police in Franklin when I was a kid, and my uncle became chief of police in Franklin. I talked about farming, but police work always intrigued me too. And as a young lawyer, I was asked to assist an officer-involved shooting, and I kind of got into that. And so I became a FOP and PBA representative of the officers, and had the distinct opportunity and privilege to assist officers in officer-involved shootings here in the county, in the city of Smyrna, Williamson County, and it is a very critical, very important job to be there with the officer as the investigation begins. And it was an honor to be able to assist those officers. It is such a traumatic event. And it was when I received that phone call, and a lot of these happen in the middle of the night when there's a bad situation in our county. And I get the call at 2 in the morning and drive out to Walter Hill or wherever it is, and to be able to sit down with that officer and walk through it, and just to know the chaplain's there, because it is just it's hard to describe the scene, but it was my privilege to work with our law enforcement and with the TBI and with the district attorney to make sure that when those tragic events occurred, that all the T's were crossed, that all the I's were dotted, that the reports, the investigations, the videos, everything was placed in a situation where the district attorney or grand jury or whoever looked over it in oversight can make sure everything was exactly the way it should have been under the law.
Talk about the scope of the circuit court, because you have general sessions, circuit court.
Yes.
I think what chancery court.
We do have a chancery court. Yes.
So explain your scope.
All right.
As judge.
We have 5 circuit court judges and 1 chancellor. Howard Wilson is our chancellor. In circuit court, Jimmy Turner and Barry Tidwell handle the criminal jurisdiction. They handle all the criminal cases now, along with Chancellor Wilson. Judge Atwood, Judge Scarlett, and I handle the civil cases. So the civil cases in circuit court are anything from divorce, custody, adoptions, to a medical malpractice. I have a 9-day medical malpractice trial set later this year. Contract disputes, anything civil in nature which may involve compensation, awards, just a civil matter that doesn't bleed over into the criminal aspect, or the kind of types of cases that we handle.
kind of go through the court system. So somebody, obviously, it's like 2 to 3% of the population that only ever has to deal with court.
Right.
So, and I know we won't get into it, but there's a referendum going on right now in Smyrna, and it's about the general sessions side of court. And then here in Murfreesboro, you've got your stages of general sessions where there's 3 judges that are involved in that and as well, and then at the circuit court level. So go through somebody that's don't know a whole lot about the legal system, how it really kind of works here.
We'll take the criminal side first. The general sessions court, we do have 3 criminal general sessions judges here, Judge Ishide, Judge McFarland, and Judge Bennett. And if there is an arrest or a ticket or a citation given by a county officer, Murfreesboro City, or a state trooper, you start there in general sessions court. If it's a misdemeanor, most of the time those cases are resolved there. It's a felony, you have a right to have a preliminary hearing there. From there, if a case is found to have probable cause, it goes to a grand jury who evaluates the case and then returns an indictment. Then the individual would appear in circuit criminal court, and at that point they'd have a right to a jury trial. That's where a jury would actually become involved. On the civil side, Judge Gilley is our civil general sessions judge, and his jurisdictional limit is $25,000. So in that court, a lot of times if you will walk in there, it would be like the people's court. There are a lot of individuals who are representing themselves, and they may be fussing over a dishwasher that they gave as a gift and now they want it back. Or a lot of evictions, rent collections, small claims. It's a small claims court. If the jurisdiction is over $25,000 or the claim is over $25,000, then a action is filed with our circuit court clerk, Melissa Harrell, or through the Chancery clerk, Adam Dodd, clerk and master, and then it would come to one of the circuit judges. And at that level, everyone, whether you're bringing the case or you're defending the case, has a right to a jury trial. So that's where we would have the jury trial if you wanted one. And not all cases have jury trials. We have a lot of bench trials where each party submits their case and then the judge enters a ruling. It made me think when you said not many people go through the system, and good for them. But what we do, I do want to brag a little bit about our facility. I would encourage anyone who has not been into the new Judicial Center to go. We opened in May of 2018. It was much needed. Our county commission and our mayor took care of the citizens, and it was much needed. We're overcrowded, but it's an excellent facility. It's very modern. It is secure. It may be one of the most secure in Middle Tennessee, which is needed these days. If you watch TV or YouTube very much, you'll see there is a lot of disrespect for the law and for judges, and there are lots of dangers that occur in a courthouse. We don't have to worry about that. We have an excellent security staff there. We're very secure. Also, pre-planning by our county commission, the 4th floor is vacant, and it is for future expansion. Right. And I've got a feeling that it won't be very much longer with our growth. Yep. And the growth comes the element that also needs the courthouse.
That's right.
And so, and also in that, I've been speaking recently to new jurors who come in. We have a jury orientation once a month for new jurors, and it's about 100 to 125 people come in on a couple of days a month to get ready to hopefully serve on the next jury panels. And we have quite a few people who have never served on a jury. And I would encourage that if you get that summons, try not to come to the courthouse with the idea, how can I get out of this? It seems like that's the first thing, because it is really a service that we need. We need jurors. We need reasonable Rutherford County citizens to come and listen to a dispute and bring their wisdom and their common sense into the courtroom and listen. And it is really a critical key element that makes our system work. We've got the best system in the world, and it's because we still have the human factor. Very rarely do you go somewhere and you get to interact with humans. We go to the bank and they want you to use the ATM, or don't even go to the bank. Just take a picture of your check, do mobile banking. You go to the store, you check out yourself. You go to the gas pump, you never see anybody anymore. But in court, it's not like that. We don't have an app. We don't have a algorithm. We don't have a computer program. We have people. And it's the human factor that makes our system different and makes it work.
So along that same line, so anybody that watched the news in the past week with what's going down in Fulton County and in Atlanta, so some of those attorneys, obviously there was 20 some odd defendants on that deal, but there's 3 rows of attorneys, but then some were Zooming or Skyping in to the hearing as well, and were able to ask questions. I guess that's where technology is kind of afforded itself now. And, and I think that was part of when we were trying to design the Rutherford County Courthouse, because when I came in '93, we still used the original courthouse, you know, the where the commission meets
the
now.
Historic courthouse.
Judge Clayton was in there.
That's right. Tried my first cases in there.
My first jury trial was in front of him, and he was smoking a cigar and had a squeaky chair and
a pistol on his hip.
I was scared to death in there that day, but there wasn't any lights on. It was hot, and it was in the summertime, and they kept the lights off because they said it kept it cooler in there.
That's right.
So, anyways, but we went from there to what we had, you know, across the street to, you know, Mayor Burgess at the time was an open book. He was, of course, with the HCA, and he was very familiar with building facilities and things, but he didn't understand what the courts were, and he was an open book and wanted to learn the process. You know, we went and toured Nashville, and I had a murder trial that took me to Arapahoe County in Colorado, and they had the thing out there they called the Twin Towers. So, you know, I was more wanting to see the courts and how it operated out there, because that was where Columbine happened.
That's right.
So on the completion of Columbine, they built these courthouses and more secure, and they had a prisoner area that they could put, and they had a area to put a bus in, and I wanted to see all that come here because I knew at some point Rutherford County would be the same. But you know,
there was great vision, and another kudo I want to give to the mayor and to the county commission is keeping the courts downtown. I think that has really helped
huge.
Murfreesboro.
Yeah.
There, if you look around a lot of counties, they've moved them out to the interstate, moved them out to the sheriff's department. But keeping that downtown, I think, has been vital to downtown Murfreesboro. And I know people who still like to come downtown, and downtown has been growth. But keeping the judicial system here, keeping the clerks here, it has been a very important part.
That was a tough conversation, because there was 100 acres at Sulphur Springs and 840 that we could have bought, built, and we were given for the bike where the peddler was.
That's right.
We were given the same money for that little bitty building that we could have bought the whole 100 acres for. So
you made the right decision.
Well,
Your Honor,
I'm a history guy, and I like it the way it is.
That's right.
Thank you for being with us, and
sir.
God bless you for your service. We're honored for you to have been with us this morning.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Same here. If we ever do anything, you always got an open seat here. Please come see us and tell us more stories about Mr. Rakes.
All right. I've got some more.
I bet you do.
Or Ed Steve.
That's right. That's right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Into how when you had his first grandkid on the way and stuff like that, I'm sure that was a hoot with him as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, I hope everybody enjoyed the show, and we'll be back again with you next week as usual. But everybody have a great week and stay dry out there.